Hi everybody, Joe Conkley in the shop. Today here at Elderly Instruments, we're going to look at this really sweet 1926 0028 12 fret slot head guitar that we just saw on our last video. Mr. Drew Howard playing some wonderful tunes on it, and it's an interesting repair for me. I hope it is for you. Bar frets on the guitar, and so here's a piece of bar fret wire. It is,
let me get that. 1 sec. 1 sec, it's not focusing. Okay, I got it. Okay, continue.
it's a rectangular chunk of metal, a bar, and so the top of the fret, the playing surface of the fret, is the same size as the tang, which is the part that goes down in the slot. On a modern T fret, there are two parts. The mushroom of the top, it looks like a mushroom. The top part, the playing surface, sits above on the fretboard. The tang is quite a bit more narrow, and that goes down in the slot. So one of the things that you can do by manipulating the size of the tang and how that fits into the slot is you can change the contour of the fretboard. Fretboard is like so. You take a slot, you put a bigger piece of metal into that slot, and it takes and moves the neck like that. So it back bows the neck, which counteracts the tension of the strings. So the idea is to have that back bow set with no tension on the strings, such that when you string it up and tune it to pitch, it brings the neck to very straight with a slight amount of relief. And so the bar frets present a special challenge there, in that with a T fret, you have to prepare the surface of the fretboard. And when you put the frets in, you can get a slight change in that surface of the fretboard, but not a ton, so that once you prepare the surface of the fretboard properly and pick the right tang to go in the slot, you should be able to seat the frets in there and go over them very lightly on the tops to make sure they're all level, and you're kind of done there. With the bar frets, you have to prepare the surface of the fretboard, put the frets in, then you have to size the top of the fret, which is sticking out of the fretboard, down to the level you want, while maintaining that same contour that you put into the fretboard. It's kind of like you have to do that contouring job twice, once for the fingerboard, once for the fret top. So that makes it more of a challenge, but it also presents opportunities. So on this instrument, the treble side of the neck was pretty good all the way down with string tension. Quite straight, small amount of relief, pretty good, and it continued into the middle of the neck. But on the bass side, what we found is this area here, say from the 3rd fret to the 9th fret, there was a little dip in the board, so that there was too much relief on this bass side and made for playability problems on that bass side. So what I did was to start this job, I had to really see and measure what was going on there as well as I could. The first tool that I used to do that measurement was this nice slotted straight edge. So it's extremely straight and true on that edge, and it has a number of slots cut into it to allow you to set it on guitar neck of a certain scale length, small little variation on the scale length there from the slot, but to set it on the neck, and it reads the surface of the fretboard rather than the top surface of the frets, which is of course what you get with this type of straight edge, where you would put it on top of the frets and you're reading that fret surface. So that's the first thing I did. And I usually measure the neck in 3 different spots: the treble side, the middle, and the bass side. And so I measured it with string tension on and without. And took a bunch of notes right here. All kinds of information that I wrote down from that. And I also used my handy dandy auto feeler gauge set for those measurements. These are little pieces of metal that are precisely measured to various thicknesses from 3/thousandths of an inch all the way up to 32 thousandths of an inch. So I put the straight edge on there, and with string tension, there was that little bit of bow. So I'm usually measuring at the 7th fret, in between the 6th and 7th fret, to see what's going on there. And with string tension, let me review this here. With strings, on the treble side, there was 9 thousandths worth of relief. In the middle, 9 thousandths of relief. But on the bass side, 13 thousandths of relief. Slight difference. And when I measured the top of the frets, I got 8 thousandths of relief on the treble side, 6 thousandths in the middle, and 9 thousandths on the bass side. So again, slightly more on the bass side, but again, there was that visual of that 3rd to 9th fret where there was an even a bigger bow. So took the strings off, and the fingerboard went from 2 thousandths relief to 5 thousandths in the middle to 5 thousandths on the bass side. But the fret surfaces had a slight back bow. So instead of measuring, so when I put the straight edge on the top for the fret surfaces, there was no, I could not stick a feeler gauge under that 7th fret, underneath the straight edge on top of the 7th fret. But what I could do was stick a feeler gauge in here at the 1st fret. So, and I could see visually that the neck had that slight back bow. So I measured a 5 thousandths relief here at the 1st fret on the treble side, 9 thousandths in the middle, but the bass side had a 3 thousandths. It was 0 at the 1st fret, but 3 thousandths relief at the 7th fret. So it sort of confirms that whole idea. All right, so I got all that information with strings on and without. It gives me a pretty good idea of what I want to do here. So I also measured the height of the frets in various spots, which I'm not going to bore you with that. But suffice to say, part of my problem with this dip here, 3rd to 9th fret on the bass side, was also involved with fret height. The frets were higher here and very low right there. So a little bit of oddities going on with the neck and more going on with the top surface of the fret. So my way to attempt to solve that problem is I pulled the 7th fret. Pulled the 7th fret and started to take a new piece of fret wire to go into that 7th fret and to modify the size of it. So the current frets are about 50 thousandths wide going into a 50 thousandth slot. You know, nice fit, but not a lot of compression there. So I took a bar fret stock, which is 55 thousandths wide, and I tapered it just by sanding and filing. And I left the bass side of it thicker, so I went from 55 down to about 52, and I took the treble side down to 49.50, tapered, until I could insert it into that slot. I had put quite a bit of pressure on it to get it in there, and a lot of back and forth, taking the fret out, taking a little more off, so I could really get it seated in there. And what I accomplished with that was just what I'm trying to do, where I got a little more even response from the fretboard, where the bass side has a little bow in it, treble side is fairly straight or back bowed. They're both coming together more. I'm getting back bow in the whole thing. It's not exactly done yet, but I got it improved. Then I had to take the height of the fret and take it down to the other frets. And so let me talk for a second a little bit more about fret height. A standard T fret is usually around 40 thousandths tall, 80 thousandths wide. Standard bar fret, as you just heard, is somewhere between 50 and 55 thousandths wide, so it's narrower, but usually taller. I used to take a brand new bar refret and shoot for 50 thousandths tall and around 50 thousandths wide. The 50 thousandths tall is, I've just found for most players and users, just really hard to deal with, especially if you've never played a bar fret guitar before. It really feels like when you're sliding from one note to the other that, you know, it's like going over a railroad track. It feels extremely different and hard to adapt to for most players. If you've played a bunch of bar fret guitars before, you can adapt to that and are used to it, because one of the things you get with that extra height is an opportunity for your left hand to articulate notes in a more precise way. Your left hand also affects the intonation, and most sensitive players, their hand is doing that in any number of different ways already, almost without thinking about it, because you're trying to play in tune with good tone, and the more you practice that, the more your left hand learns how to do that without even thinking. But what I found was that I just started to reduce the size of what I thought of as an ideal bar fret height, closer down to that 35 to 40 thousandths. So I usually take it down to about 40 thousandths now, and I have some customers that prefer it even lower. You know, 35 is usually the lowest I will shoot for in a bar fret job. So I have fret heights on this one ranging from 45 to 28. So a little bit higher than normal, a little bit lower than normal. I'm going to take another fret out and do that same tapered job. Probably I did the 7th fret. I'm going to do the 8th fret today here, and then we'll see how that affects the fretboard. I will take that height down to that 35, 40 thousandths, or as close as I can. Then I'm going to have to level the whole fretboard, or the frets, to try and get exactly what I'm looking for. So there you go. A lot of numbers. Let's actually do something here. So let's pull this 8th fret with my flush cut end nippers. And it came out really easy, as you can see. There are no nibs on the side of the tang that goes in, unlike a T fret, where you have that smaller tang, but there are little nibs that really bite into the wood and allow that fret to seat in there. That is one of the challenges with bar frets, is they can loosen up a little more over time because they don't have those nibs. Sometimes on some guitars you will see nibs sort of created on the bottom of the fret, where they maybe take a chisel, a cold chisel, or something like that, and put that chisel in this direction and tap across there, so it bites into the metal and actually splays it out, creating nibs. That is one thing you see. But on this, it's very smooth. So I pulled right out. So that's probably one of the other things that is affecting this, is these frets are not seated in there super tight as far as that compression goes. So that's what I'm going to accomplish. So let's see what we got here, just to confirm my thoughts on these numbers here. Yeah, 50 thousandths all the way across. Actually, at the very end here, that was a little less than 50 thousandths. I'm assuming that was the treble, or the bass side, because hence my problem there with the bass side being too bowed, not enough compression on that bass side. So now what I need to do is to take this 55 thousandths wide piece of fret wire and do that tapering. I've got a little block here with just a notch cut into it, and the fret will sit on there like so. It has a slight arch to it. I'm going to take this back to the machine room. This block will allow me to sit this fret on the sander and do a couple of quick swipes with the sander, and save my hands a little wear and tear, and get where I need to on this fret as far as that 50 thousandths wide on the treble side and probably around 52 on the bass side. That will allow me to actually get it in there without a whole lot of work either. So let's do that. All right, here we are in the machine room. Got my safety glasses on, little ear protection, the sander. To get the fret tapered, I have to put more pressure on one side than the other, and this little holder will allow me to do so. One thing I got to be careful of is you sand a piece of bar fret wire and it gets hot. So I like to let it cool just a tad there before All right, so I took it from 55 all the way across to 55 on this end, down to about 50 on the other end. And I only did one side there. Let me do the other side, and I will try to be pretty light on the side that I sanded most. All right, another try. Not too hot. Not a great way to check and see if it's too hot, because if it was, I might have burnt myself there a little bit. It's always nice to see that bar fret imprinted on your fingerprints if it happened to be too warm. Okay, so I'm getting it there. Let me try this yet again. All right. That's good. I'm good there with this machine work. I have, with just a couple of strokes of the sander here, gotten it in the ballpark. Now I can take it back to my bench and fine tune it from there and try to insert it. Back to the bench. All right, we're back at the bench. I've already done some preliminary filing on this fret to try and get that sized up the way I want to, and it's pretty much something like this. This also helps to clean up the pretty heavy-duty sanding marks from the belt sander. But I just need to keep doing this and checking that thickness there, so I remember which end is which. And then I set it in here, and to see how easily, which is not very at the moment, so the treble side fits in there nicely so far. The bass side is sticking up, and I just press it with my thumbs here, and it's barely started on this bass side and kind of hanging up in the middle there. I need to take a little more material off that, and I will do so. Ever so close and continuing to get better. All right, I have the fret sized pretty good here. You can see I've inserted it into the guitar there. The treble end fits in nice, hangs up here a little bit on the bass side, in the middle. That's what I want though. I'm trying to get that compression, trying to get that fret to get into that slot and do a little bit of that for me. And so I have my trusty 70s leatherette purse with the shot bag inside of it, wrapped in 3 different layers. So it's flexible, but it's very heavy. And then I have that sitting on just a big hunk of steel that is on this board with this cork board. All the This stuff was here when I got here. Not sure where it came from, but it's super handy for a dead blow type of situation that I'm looking for when I'm tapping the frets in. So, and just the other day, I took and just cleaned up my fretting hammer where these surfaces, it's brass here and plastic, hard plastic here, so when I'm beating on this metal here, it gets all kinds of marks and deformed and such. So every so often I got to sand it up and polish up, and right now it's at the most beautiful point there where everything is perfect. I like that stuff. So anyhow, let me tap this in, see if she goes. It's in there pretty nicely. Still a ways to go on this bass side. And I don't know if you noticed there, I could see, so I seated the treble side and it went in on in nicely. And as I moved along here, the bass side is going a little, I could hit the bass side and pop the treble side up. Too much back and forth there. I'm going to go to the Stuart Mcdonald Jaws. It's a really cool tool for fretting that is just a variation on a pair of vice grips. But it's got this nice sliding piece here that allows goes on the back of the neck of the instrument, or the underside of the neck, and fits that curve and is padded with leather so it doesn't leave any marks. Then the top end has this little holder here for a brass insert. I have a huge variety of these brass inserts that come with the tool to match up to a variety of different radiuses that a fretboard might be, and it has a little U-shaped thing there that sits on top of the fret, and so it allows you to squeeze that in there without beating on the instrument with a hammer, and will exert fairly even pressure on the fret as I do this. Let's see if I can get it squeezed in there. I found with inserting this previous fret that a lot of back and forth. I'd get it so it was almost completely seated, but not enough. Then I have to pull it back out and do some more filing. And so this may not be the final seat, but it will illustrate how these. So I can adjust that with this little knurled knob here and get. Yep. Some nice downward pressure on there, but I've not gotten it fully snapped shut. There we go. And as I guessed, it's not fully seated. Nicely seated, but not fully. So what I got to do is pop it out, pull it out, and work on this base middle side thickness of that fret to allow it to seat all the way down to the bottom of that slot. Then I'll work on the height, get the ends flush also, and all that. And with any luck, then that'll be the last of the new frets that I'll put in here. I just have to see how much back bow I get from that and how much compression. And slowly working through this, what I'm going to end up with is a set of leveled frets that are quite even in height with the right amount of shape to that fretboard that I want, which will allow me to then string it up. It will actually lower the action somewhat by increasing because there was too much relief in it, so now I'm straightening it out. That'll lower the action. But I can fine tune all that stuff with by recutting any nut slots as necessary and any minor adjustments I need to do to the saddle height. I'm trying to get what I want for the setup without touching the nut in the saddle. I'm sure I'll have to do it a little bit, but minor changes to those, especially the saddle. The saddle height is pretty nice. It's pretty good where I want it. But so there you have it, folks. More bar fret fun in the shop on the 1926 000 28 12 fret slot head Martin guitar. Thanks for tuning in. Have any questions or comments, please send them our way, and we'll see you back again here. So long.